Okay, so over the past couple months, I guess, we've been working on TypeScript, and I've gotten a lot of questions about a kind of a full example of using TypeScript with state managers, as well as fetching stuff. And I just want to go and put together a series of videos that show different state managers and then kind of compares them and gets you to where you have a fully typed state system. And this is the first video in that series. And what we're going to do in this one is we're going to use just the native off-the-shelf stuff that comes with React. So we're going to start with useState and show the perils of prop drilling. Then we're going to update that to use useContext. And then finally, we're going to go and create our own custom hook. But it's all going to be the stuff that you get right out of the box with React. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to start all these with this base project. This is a base project that's got some basic to-do stuff already built into it, and it makes it easier for me to kind of start out. So let's go to TMP in this case. I'm going to git clone this one, and I'm going to call this one to-do native React. How about that? Bring up VS Code. Then I'm going to yarn. So this is just a off-the-shelf, actually Chakra template that uses TypeScript, but it's really just create React app with some nice Chakra extensions. So let's now do a yarn start on that and take a look and see what we've got. Okay, so up at the top here, we've got a light and dark switcher. That actually came with the template, so I just kind of left it around. I thought it was kind of cool. There's a load button that's going to go and get some JSON and bring it into our to-do list. There's the to-do list, which is currently empty. There's a place where you can add a new to-do right down the bottom. It's pretty simple. So let's go have a look at the code. The components are the top bar, which would be this part up here with the light and dark switcher and the load. The to-do list, which has the to-do list in it, and then the to-do add, which is the one at the bottom, which has the text box and the add to-do. Pretty simple. And then over in the store, there is a setter, basically a setup for us already. We've got what a to-do is going to look like, and then we've got some handy helper functions. And the reason that I have these baked into it is I don't want to spend a lot of time dealing with, how to update a to-do, update its text. It basically, you give it a set of to-dos, you give it an ID and a piece of text, and then it gives you back a to-do list that has that one updated. The same thing with toggling, with removing, and finally adding a new to-do. And I just didn't want us dealing with all that. So first thing we want to do in this one is we're going to go and create some state. So I'm going to go and create a new state called to-dos. And I'll just use useState for that. And I'm going to populate it with an empty array, but we know we need to tell it that it is a list of to-dos. Otherwise, this will be typed as a never array. So we need to give it a to-do, which we're going to import from store, and it's going to be an array of those. Pretty cool. Okay, fine so far. And now we've got to go get these down to top bar, to-do list, and to-do add. They all need parts and pieces of that. For example, at least the to-do list needs to-dos. So add in to-dos like that. But it's also going to need to-dos set to go and actually make anything happen. So bring in that one too. And similar sort of things for this. And I think the only thing that to-do add would need to do would be to add to set. And, right now, TypeScript is giving us errors because these things don't exist. These properties don't exist. So let's go over and look at, for example, top bar and see if we can get something in there. So in this one, well, we don't need the list of to-dos. We just need the to-do set. So I'll just pop that back. But we need to somehow type that we want a to-do set. And it's got to be something. It's going to be whatever this is, right? And so that's kind of an interesting part when it comes to use state right away, is it's kind of hard to tell what these are. This is actually a dispatch set state action and then the type. So unless you want to keep typing that in all over the place, I'm going to make it a little easier on ourselves. We're going to go take this use state function and bring it back into the store. So I'm going to go over here to store. And then down here, we'll call this the native React implementation section. So this stuff up here is going to be pretty much the same in every single example. This part down here is going to be different as we go along. So I'm going to create a new one called useToDos. And it's just going to return, it's going to take an initial state, which is a list of to-dos. Don't really have to do that, but it's nice. And it's going to return the React useState. And now we got to bring in the React stuff, so let's go do that. Go back over here. All right. So now we got useToDos, so we want to export that for sure. But we also want to go and export the different types coming out of it so that we can use those to type the properties that go into those subcomponents. So let's go and say, first we want to export the type, useToDos type, which is the return type of that function. In this case, you got to use type of. And I can do Command K, Command I, and we can see that this is the first element in this tuple coming back is a to-do array, and then the second is that React dispatch, blah, 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 right? So, okay. So we're going to export another type called to-dos type. And we're just going to say that that is the 0th item off of useToDos type. In fact, we'll just make that uppercase just for heck of it. Okay, drop that in there. And then we're also going to say that the setToDos type comes from the second one. There you go. Cool. So now I've got a bunch of new types, and I've got this helper little useToDos thing. So I'm going to go over here to app, and first I'm going to bring in useToDos. Just like that. And then I would no longer need to do, no problem. But now I can start actually going and setting like top bar, for example. So I can go back over to top bar and I can bring in setToDos type from the store. And now I can set it. So that is the correct typing. And the great thing about this is whenever these types change, these types will also change because they're relative to that type, right? I don't have to go and type in, if I change the name of to-do or whatever, the topology of to-do, it's not going to change. So it's just a very nice way to be able to do that. Okay, so let's go and type in the other stuff as well. So I'll go into here to to-do list, bring in that one, call this, again, to-dos type. And so here we're going to have to-dos, and we're going to have to-dos set. Is that what I call it? Or did I call it setToDos? Probably call it setToDos. Nope, it's to-dos set. Okay. And then we'll go and type those. Okay, so that's fine. But now it's actually got to pass that on. It's got to drill that to the next level down. So I got this to-dos list, and a to-do list includes the heading and then the to-do list items. So now we got to drill that. So we got to say to-do equals to-dos, to-do set equals to-dos set, and then we got to go and take these props and propagate those up into the to-do list items. So this is the hazard of prop drilling, right? So this class, which is really just a visual container, is having to drill down into the classes that actually need them, what those properties actually are. So that's not great. If you got a prop drill, particularly multiple levels, that's a real code smell when it comes to React. Don't do that. But we'll get there. We'll fix that with context. So let's keep on going. Let's actually get this implementation going. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say we want that to be our to-dos like that. And so now I'm going to start actually, let's do to-do add over here. Let's just add one more thing in and get our properties going. So to-do set like that. So again, I bring in to-do set to-dos type. And we'll call this to-do set again. Okay, cool. So now we need to actually start implementing on this stuff. And the way that we do that is we use to-do set. For example, in this one, we're going to hold some state locally for that new to-do. So let's go create that. So we'll start off with an empty string. We'll go and make that the value of that input, and then do the on change for it. There we go, that's tracked now. And now in the on click of this, we then need to go and, let's see, we need to-do set. And then we need to give it the add to-do from store. And we give it the original list of to-dos. I guess I need them. Okay, fine. So we'll bring those in, to-dos. And then the new to-do as a string. But we don't have to-dos. So let's go and put that in there, to-dos. And now we're going to say that's the to-dos type, which we also need to bring in. Okay, looking good. So I think that should actually work. Let's make sure that everything's saved. Oh, we're missing to-dos. So let's go back over here to our app. Make sure you send those in as well. And now I can, yeah, looks like it's actually working. The only thing so far, the only couple more things that need to work are this done button over here, the deletes, and the load. So let's just go on to our to-do list and actually have some fun with that. So in the checkbox, we're going to need an on-click handler for that. And that's going to, again, do to-dos set with the toggle to-do of the to-dos and given the current to-do.id. Then in the input, the value is going to be the current text, that's right. And then we need to update that text, so let's add an on change. Again, we'll take the event, and we'll do the to-do set with the update. Again, with the list of to-dos and the new text. Oh, we also need the to-do ID, I'm guessing. Yep, that. Okay, I think it worked, yeah. To-do, ID, and then text. That makes sense. And then finally, the delete button, which will say, again, we don't take any parameters. And we'll go and set the to-dos again. This case with the remove to-do, given the list of to-dos and the current to-do.id. Okay. Yeah, pretty good. So let's go take a look at this. And can we delete? Yeah, we can delete. We can change. You can set the value. Pretty nice. Okay, cool. Now the last thing to do is implement the load. So I'm going to go over here to add or top bar and then go grab this. This is basically just a very small JSON file that has some example things, get dinner fixins, cook dinner, and eat dinner. Pretty simple stuff. So in this case, we're going to want to do an on click here to do, for example, on load. And that on load function is just going to do a fetch with that URL, then get the response back. That's going to be JSON or JSON encoded, so we got to convert that. And then finally we get the data, which we then do set to do or to do set on that data. All right, let's take a look. And I should be able to hit the load button there. Let me refresh, hit the load button, nothing works. That's great. Okay. On click Oh, there we go. There we go. Get dinner fixins, cook dinner, eat dinner. Excellent. Cool. So that's it for useState. If you just want to use useState and do the prop drilling, but I actually don't think that that's a very good stopping point at all. I think prop drilling is bad, and I think the right thing to do at this point would be to build and use context. Context allows you to share the to-dos stuff still at the top level directory, at the top level of the React stack using a provider, but then you don't actually have to have any of this stuff sent down by a prop, so you can do useContext and go get that context wherever you need it. So for example, this component over here in to-dos list, the to-do list, will not have to take these props and will not have to do the work of passing them on to the child component, which is really what we want to avoid. So how are we going to do this? Well, so the first thing we need to do is create some context. So I'm going to do to-do context, and then I'm going to use react.createContext. And what's going to be in there? Well, what's going to be in the context is going to be either the useToDo's type or null. And we'll start off with null. All right. And then we're going to actually do something nice. We're going to create another custom React hook. We'll call it useToDo's context. And that's going to return react.useContext with the to-do context that we just created. But now I know at runtime, we are always going to have something, right? So I'm going to use exclamation point at the end, and that's going to coerce the to-do context in this case so that we don't always have to go checking for null. And then the last thing I'm going to do is create a nice provider. So I'm going to say export const to-do's provider. And that's going to take children. And those children will be of type React node, which I then need to bring in. And I also need to upgrade this file to a TSX file. So store.tsx. That's probably going to break the build. So let me go and restart that in a second. But down in here, I want to do to-do's context.provider, and then I want to give it a value. And the value of that is going to be useToDo's, or the result of useToDo's, and that's fine. That is just like calling a useState at the top of your function. Doing it right here is not going to mean that it gets re-invoked with every single re-render. It's totally fine. And then within that, I'm going to have my children. Just like that. All right, so what's it complaining about? All right, it's telling me that I need to have an initial value in there, not a problem. Okay, so now I've got some really cool stuff. I've got useContext and to-do's provider. So first let's go and use to-do's provider out of here. And we'll just put that at the top. Or within Chakra provider, it really doesn't matter. We're not going to use it in here. And then I'm going to get rid of this. And I can start getting rid of all of these props. Yay! Just like that. Bye-bye props. Don't need you anymore. Okay, so let's go over here to to-do add. We can get rid of that. And how are we going to then get to-do set? Well, cool. Let's go over here to use to-do's context. And this is how we're going to go get the context. And from here, we can say that we want to-do's set from the to-do's context. And there you go. We can even get the list of to-do's, which we need as well. So there we go. Cool. All right. So it looks like this one is ready to go. So let me go and go down to to-do's list, and we can start removing props again. Nice. And we can just use to-do's context to go get that. Get rid of these two, I think, is that? And then we'll go down here and remove these, as well as these. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So we're just starting to basically take these props out and replace them with the context. Okay, so last one then would be our top bar. So again, we'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of our props. And we don't need the to-dos. We just need the to-do set. All right, let's, looks like we were reporting no problems. No problem. So let's do yarn start. All right, looking pretty good. Let's try load. Hey, wow, that's cool. Add a new one, looks good. I should make it so that it sets that to a blank piece of text. That'd be good. So where was that? That was to do add. So that's something we should do in addition to clicking, is to also set that value to null or to empty string. Just like that. All right, this time when I add, yeah, okay, that's better. And let's see, can I delete? Yeah, looking good. Okay, so let's go back and summarize what's happened here. So let me go back to our store for a second. And we basically kept around all this stuff, although we can probably get rid of all of that if we want. So now we've got the use to-dos, which we're not actually going to expose. We don't need the use to-dos type either exposed. That's fine. We've got our to-do context that we create, but then don't need to expose, because the things that we want to expose out of here are, well, let's get rid of these two. We don't need those. Nice. You really want to make sure, we do need those. You really want to make sure that you expose out of modules the very smallest piece of interface that you need. So in this case, the only thing we need are these helper functions and this to-do interface, the update, toggle, and all that sort of stuff, because we're going to end up using that in the components. And then you need the use to-dos context, which is a helper custom hook to go get us the context. And then that provider, which then goes and provides the context that starts off as empty down to all the children. Cool. Okay, great. But I think we can still do one better, and that's actually to create a nicer interface that from a custom hook. So I'm going to create a new custom hook here, and we will call it use to-dos, and it will take an array of to-dos. We'll call that to-dos internally, and to-dos set. Just like that. And then we're going to return out of that custom hook to-dos, as well as we're going to go and also maintain the new to-do, that string. So let me go and just copy that out of to-do add. Just going to grab that. All right. So we'll have our new to-dos and new to-do set. We'll just pass that one along as well. But now I'm actually going to go and make a lot of helper functions in here. So I'm going to say add to do. And that is going to do it's going to set the to-dos with the add to do. And then we'll give it the current list of to-dos along with the new string. So new to do. All right, cool. And just to be nice, I'm going to say that every time we do this, we're going to use the callback function on this, so we make sure we never have a stale value. And so that's going to add a new to-do. And then let's see, what else do we have to do? We have to update, toggle, and remove to-dos as well. So let's do that. Update. And that'll take an ID and piece of text. And that's basically going to do exactly the same thing. So it's going to call update to do with the ID and the text. And two more to go. Toggle to do, which doesn't require any text. So let's get that out of there. And then remove to do. Oops. Get rid of that piece of text in there. There you go. And so now this is a really nice hook. It gives us everything that we need, the entire state of the system, plus all of the accessors to be able to go and modify that, add, to do, update, all that sort of stuff. So let's go and see how much easier this will be to work with. So actually one more before I leave. So let's do load. And that's going to give a list of to-dos. And it's just going to set the to-dos to whatever that's coming in as. Let's call it in to-dos. Just, make sure that we know exactly what we're dealing with. All right, so the first one we'll use that. So instead of use context this way, we're going to use context with destructuring. We'll say that's we're going to get out load out of there. And we'll just call load with the data. Very cool. And then let's go over to to-do list. And I've got to-dos, but I don't have to-dos set anymore. That's hidden from me now. So that's actually good. So what do I have? I've got add. No, I have update to do. I've got, what else do I have? I've got toggle to do. And I've got remove to do. And those are all coming out of use to do context. All right. So to-dos works. Let's see, update to do. Let's drop that in there. I'm just going to go and remove to do set because it's going to handle that for us. Pretty cool. And I can get rid of that. That looks like the right signature. And I'll go down here to remove to do and see that. I don't have to give it the list of to-dos anymore. Ooh, this is looking really nice. Toggle to do. Oh yeah, this is looking like a real state manager. Okay, beautiful. Wow. Okay, that's looking really, really clean. All right, let's go over here to do add. And then we are no longer dealing with this. Yay. Okay. Well, actually, hold on. Let me go and just grab that because we're going to get that out of the context. There we go. New to-do set. That's cool. And what remains to be done? Add a to-do. Cool. Let's go and grab that as well. Add to-do. And in this case, we're just going to call add to-do. Cool. Oh, and actually, let's move that back into the store so that it's all handled for us. So let's see, add to-do. And then we're also going to do new to-do set right there. Isn't that nice? That is just beautiful. Okay, so let's take a look. To refresh the page. Dark mode still works. That's absolutely critical. Load, that works. That's great. Let's finish this up. Oh, this is looking good. Okay. Can we delete? Yes, we can. Can we add a to-do? Yes, we can. And it's setting it to an empty string. This is looking great. Okay, cool. So we have gone through useState with prompt drilling. Then we converted that to context, which is pretty good, although the context contained an array, which seemed kind of weird, right? As an interface, an array of the to-dos and the set to-dos, it's not very extensible long term. I mean, what we really want is we want an API. And so what we did was we created this custom use to-dos hook, which automatically maintains the state of all the to-dos, as well as the state of the new to-do that we're going to add. And then it exposes that in a surface that has a really nice API signature to it. It's got the list of to-dos, it's got the new to-do ready to go, that string, and it's got these helper functions that don't require us to pass them to-dos anymore. They know all of that stuff inherently. All they have to do is send in the data that is actually germane to the mechanism of the method. In this case, for example, update to-do takes the ID of the to-do and what you want the new text to be. So very nice. And then in terms of all of this code, notice we didn't have to change that at all because we were using these relative types. We're using things like return type of use to-dos. We didn't have to change any of this code when the API surface of this changed from an array into an object. How cool is that? That is just great. And then down here we have created our context, which was starting off as null. We have a context custom hook that gives us back that context. We can actually see what that looks like. Command K, Command I. We We can actually see our return type right in there, all hinted for us, ready to go. And that's going to be what comes back from the result of useToDo's is going to be all that stuff. That's just fantastic. And then the to-dos provider, which you put at the top of the app over here to provide that context all the way down. The top bar then it handles this. You could actually probably move this load function back into the store if you wanted to. That's fine too. The to-do list becomes much cleaner. We don't have any prompt drilling at all. Just a really, really nice and clean surface area for sharing context and state between components. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that walkthrough of using the context and state tools that are built into React to make effectively your own state management system. And I think this provides a nice grounding as we go into the videos that follow, looking at things like Redux and MobX and Valtio, Zushdan, Jotai, the list goes on and on. What's even cooler is I actually have all that code written already, and there's a link to that in the description. So you can go and jump ahead yourself if you want to, or you can wait for the videos to come out and watch and follow along and then check out the code for yourself. In the meantime, of course, I really want to hear your feedback, and if this content is working for you. The reason I'm creating this content is because you asked for it. So let me know if you like it in the description down below, or jump on the Discord server and have a chat with us directly. There's a link to the Discord server also in the description. Feel free to like and share this video with your friends. But of course, in the meantime, be happy, be healthy, and be safe.